for the June of 2025 RVTC board meeting. Timing is everything. So we are here in the engineering lab, but our focus will be on the River Valley RAS and Chris Gray. And let me flip the camera around. Hang on.
Take a picture of that.
So high in the rafters here are the aerial drone championship banner that they just brought home from West Virginia. And with that, Mr. Gray.
Right. So, yeah, we did just come back Wednesday. Monday. I'm a little bit jet lagged, but we came back from West Virginia. We brought 17 tech center students and middle school students from West Virginia. And those 17 went, 15 of them were competitors, 2 of them went as volunteers. And what I think is impressive about the volunteers is those 2 students, there were more than 500 individual drone matches during the 4-day event. And our 2 students were volunteers judged all 5 minutes. So they were the 2 main scorekeepers for the entire conference. Mohammed, who was an exchange student from Jordan, was one of them, and Luis Telan, who was our student of the year, who was the Texan, gave up some of his senior week activities to come with us and go down to West Virginia. So a really good trip. This team right here is the round facing in the back. These 3 are part of our middle school team. They were 7. 56 middle school teams competing at the event, and they ended up ranking 7th out of 56. And then we're bringing in here, I'm going to introduce you to some of our championship team. Carter, Eli, come on out here for a minute. So if you saw CAX this morning, they did a really nice story on these gentlemen. So these are our, star drone pilots. So Carter's pilot, Coltrane is the co-pilot, and then Eli is the visual observer. And you didn't get to see a whole lot of it in the video this morning, but what I think is impressive about the scene, and Eli said it on the news, was they were able to communicate with each other without words. And that's critical in this adventure because they know what the other team members do. It's a 3-person team. It's not just a pilot. If they're not communicating with each other, there's a 4-second course the pilot has to fly that they can't see. 100% blind. These are not camera drones. These are not drones that can send feedback to the operator. So what Eli's job is to tell the pilot how to fly, where to fly, when the pilot can't see. And that's an incredibly important part of this event because we're going beyond just, I mean, the drone itself, great tool, but the communication system needs to be developed. Will carry them far beyond. So they ever fly a drone again, doesn't really matter. What matters is that they know how to communicate under stress. How many matches you guys have to compete in over 4 days? 14 different matches over 2 days. And what was really impressive was 10 and then 3, right? Yeah.
There's some math.
The team that they ended up choosing for lining. Now, when you walk into the competition, there are 50 teams. None of them know each other. They're from all different parts of the country. And for the first 2 days, they are aligned by random chance. So they end up walking the field and say, oh, here's another team we're going to, and they play together. They don't play against each other. And by the end of day 1, they're supposed to start figuring out, okay, who am I going to align with? Because when they go to the finals, they get to pick the team that they want to participate with. So that's really critical. So where was the team from? And what was their name?
The boys.
Bill and the boys. So it was a team of about 6 different high school kids. And that team was actually, what was their ranking on getting the final? So if you're lucky enough and skilled enough to make the top 10, you get to pick who you compete with during the finals. And normally you pick someone right around your number because, hey, if you're 8th and the next team is 9th, logistics, kind of would say, hey, let's pick that team. This team kind of went like out of the box and picked the team kind of way down in the order because they saw skills in that team that were beneficial to the skills that they had. And to see them play the game, there's a one match that they got a perfect score on, and watch them, it's seamless. And it's amazing that these kids literally didn't know each other before that morning. So,
We meet on first 13 that I moved out of first and the third we moved out the second and fourth meeting.
and interesting thing too. So as you folks know, we held 2 drone competitions here in Springfield over the course of the season. And there was a team that came to both of them. They were from Chickapee National. And they've always been really, really strong teams. We get to know teams like that. And after all was said and done, we actually stayed in the same hotel with this team. We get to know them pretty well. They were all seniors in high school, and these freshmen knocked them out of the water because they were nowhere near the top five. So it's incredible that the work that they've done. But more importantly, so what Scott said to me a little earlier was, the first day of next season is always the last day of this season.
Something like that, yeah, getting ready for next season.
Now is we only have 2 more weeks left in the clock. What we've seen in this room is we've got about 24 students here today. The projection is we're going to double, at least double before next year. We've got 5th graders moving into our middle school here in town. We're going to open up 5th graders. Going to expand. We did a lot of work around Lego League here, and we had 2 satellite programs, one down at SAPA-TV and one at the Weathersfield Elementary School. So now we've got a growing theater program that will start adding students to the club. We've also got a grant from First of Vermont, to start an FRC team. So if you're familiar with First at all, First is Lego League when they're in elementary school, PC, which is the first technology academy in middle school, and then FRC, 5-foot robots. This is what Dean Gates started about 25 years ago. He's a big robot here. Play on a basketball court basically and have some talent. So we're starting one of those teams next year for the first time in Springfield. And what that means is that we can offer robotics in the 1st grade, 12th grade, in an after-school setting that's open to anybody in our region. So if it's online, if you're coming in from Bellas Falls or Chester or Skull Mountain, just know that this club is for everyone that's in the River Valley region, not just in Springfield. Right now, it's pretty heavy. Springfield is really Springfield is convenient. But from Londonderry, she drives over here every Wednesday afternoon. Goes in our AVP program. And I was able to, it's not an issue. We have as many young women joining the club.
Talk a little bit, Chris, about how this ties into the program that you teach during the day.
My day job. So, obviously, advanced menu guys, if you guys saw the stuff to do, I'm good with you guys.
Thanks, fellas, champs.
Yeah. So, when I came back to this job 6 years ago, and that's all levels, from intro, level 1, level 2, level 3. As I'm entering into next year, and so I attribute number 1, that growth, that the after school club, I've got a group, all 3 of the gentlemen who were just standing here are freshmen in high school this year, and they're taking my what's called Introduction to Engineering Design, project lead the way forward, and normally reserved for the engineering. They're taking it as freshmen. They're getting college credit as freshmen, and they get to take my class in 4 years. The original design, we gave overnight together 25 years ago. And Project Lead the Way came to us and said, hey, we'd like to get Project Lead the Way in the Career Center. And we said, hey, sure, we'll do it. We were out in the parking lot in trailers at that point because this building wasn't built. And we were teaching freshmen in trailers. And they stayed with us for 4 years. Then over the course of time, that got moved away from us. And the because of this club, we now have 8th graders asking to take our intro to engineering before they ever leave Riverside. My challenge is how do I do that for Chester? How do I do that for Bellows Falls? Because transportation is an issue. How can we get students up who want to do this? It's not only freshman year, maybe only for an hour. And I know the cost of going to transportation, but there's got to be a way we can work that out. Maybe it's you only do it once a week and you do it for a long time. Something like that. And the other thing is with our co-coaches, hey Chris, come on out here for a minute. It's the wire. If you send Heather out, we come on. Where is she? So so these two young people, they are really the key to this whole thing working. Mr. Wire, Cliff Wire is the tech ed teacher. Design tech ed, and Heather's the computer teacher at Certified Middle School. And so they have been co-coaching with me now for Cliff was, well, forever. But just 2010 or 11, Heather joined us a couple of years ago. And when we bring this back and forth to the middle school, the impact on those classes is immediate and long lasting. So that like I opened up a STEM robotics camp through Brick for this summer, building 10 minutes. So they opened it up, and Ben, who runs the STEM program, said, "We got 10. We filled up and that's because there's middle school kind of stuff. So Heather and Cliff do kind of all my promoting at the middle school level. And now that we've gotten down to the elementary school level, I just think that we're going to need bigger space because look at what we got going on here. It's taking up pretty much my life. And what should happen is once you have a facility, you can just do a lot. Because I'm gonna have to pack all this up by tomorrow morning, so my high school kids can be very collaborative. So that's one of the downsides that we're working on. Scott, we met with some people that there might be some space down at the new building on River Street. Well, not the new building, but the redesign of your paper. There may be some space in there. Talking to some towns.
We have talked to Brock River Innovation Campus, but they're so in deep in what they're doing that was an initial conversation. We'll have to see where that ends up. So,
but it's all about, so when you ask about my program, the number one connection between what Heather and Tiff do down in middle school and what I do, it doesn't matter the content. What matters is it's technology as the tool to get them to what they want to be, what they want to know. And whether it's computer science, whether it's drones, whether it's robots, that really doesn't matter. That's just the gotcha, the tool that gets them in our room. And then we can take them where they are. Any other questions?
talk about employer support and all that.
I have the privilege of working in 35 regional employers who, at the drop of a hat, will either fund with cash or with support to keep both my program going, as well as this robotic. And the entire trip to West Virginia was funded through fundraising. So that all came because we went out and said, hey, we've got a group of 17 students want to go to West Virginia, how can we help? And the money just came in. So everybody's name was on the back of the shirt was there with it. And we put a price on it. We said, if you want your name on the back of our shirt, cost $500. No problem. So they just came up with the money. We are locally supported through. So Scott has money in our Perkins grant for outreach. I think, in my opinion, this is probably one of the most successful outreaches we've ever done because it just continues to promote kids doing really positive things here at the tech center. And you can't walk through this building without wondering what else is here.
We do have a formula that we've worked out with Springfield where they have the largest portion of kids. They do pay their fair share for their kids that are involved. But yeah, it takes 3 main sources to make it happen. I think that's it.
The other board member questions? I know you guys are online
So
too.
I'm setting you up again. So, I mean, the beauty of this to me is that how the machine tool industry was so successful with the incredible engineering engineering prowess came because of creativity. And that's the circle of life you're reinstilling here. I think you inferred it, but I'm just trying to get you to say it more explicitly. If they know how to do this, they're gonna know how to do more sophisticated things for advanced manufacturing.
And that is the history of precision medicine. So we are who we are, and born out of the 18th century because of that ingenuity. We are the Silicon Valley of science, proving that and that as well. And what I know is the next step. We're never going to be the kind of powerhouse. This machine table, that industry has changed significantly. But those 35 employers that are on my advisory are all productive and are well enough ingrained in the region that the viability continues. They go into the engineers, they'll go and see some machinery, so they go around and it doesn't matter. And as soon as they can go to that over, now as a seventh grader, it's going to be the best safety program you're ever going to get by the time he's in a junior in high school. I'll have him now in a position, one of our local manufacturers. So that cycle is continuing. And
Yes, it's a little bit.
starting at what's in grade. You can't wait until the juniors and take our program into the juniors. Too late. They've already made those choices. If they start doing this in seventh grade, they're going to be here every day. All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you all.
Thank you, congratulations. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order and thanks to Chris Gray and the crew down at a very energetic Advanced Manufacturing and Engineering Lab. And again, congratulations to the River Valley Rats for a tremendous job last weekend in West Virginia, and so cool that we have national champs. So this is a board reorganization meeting. So I'm going to let Scott take the helm for a moment.
I'm really bad at this and have been for about 11 years, so maybe I can rescue it here. I would entertain a motion to open nominations for Springfield at-large board member for the 3-year term ending June 2028.
I nominate Bob Flynn.
No, we need motions.
Oh, the motion, sorry. I told you I could mess that up.
Motion.
So moved then. How about that? So moved?
Second.
First, second, okay. Are there any other nominations? Do we-
So I'm going to officially nominate Bob Flynn just to get this all in the right order.
Are there any other nominations? I've seen that finger before. To close up, I think I would accept the motion to close nomination, accept the nomination of Bob Flint as a Springfield at-large board member for a 3-year term ending on June 2028, and have the superintendent director cast 1 vote in favor of Bob Flint.
So moved.
Second? Second, same combo.
Seconded, I didn't hear.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand
Or say aye.
or say aye. Everybody voted yes for Bob. As at-large board, congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
I'll entertain a motion to nominate for FY26 the following positions on the RVTC School District Board of Directors. Chair.
Oh, we're gonna start over. Because you didn't say open.
Okay, yep, thanks. Motion to open nominations for FY26 for the following positions on the RVTC School District Board of Directors for Chair, Vice Chair, and Secretary Clerk. All in favor, take any kind of motion?
So moved.
Bob, seconded by, seconded. Okay,
We have to take a vote, right?
Now it's Chris's turn.
I nominate Bob Flynn as chair, Jessica Burlew as vice chair, and Andrew Pennell as secretary clerk.
are there any other nominations? Thumbs up, I rarely get that. I get a motion to close nominations and elect Bob Flynn as chair, Jessica Burlow as vice chair, and Andrew Pennell as secretary clerk on the RVTC board
for FY 26 and have the superintendent director cast one vote in favor of the slate of officers nominated.
So moved.
So moved by Chris,
Second.
seconded by Kate. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Everybody voted for it.
I think you're done.
Congratulations. And for those who haven't tuned in this last few years, that was the smoothest ever, and guess what? It wasn't that smooth. And I think we scared Derek.
That seemed like less work than you were making it out earlier. When you were in the
I do that regularly.
Ah. I stay still. All right, thank you, everybody. All right, any changes or additions to the agenda?
As Tina and I were going through the agenda, I think items C and D under new business, we can combine in one, action.
And you'll note there are two As, which we're not gonna worry about. So, all right, anything else?
That's it.
Any objections to that by anybody? I'm guessing no. First item of business, or I'm sorry, public comments. Are there any public comments? Just again, besides, good job, Brads, and great, appreciate the Springfield Fire Department, Springfield Police Department escorting them, Chester through town the other day. That was very cool. All right, consent agenda. Can I get a motion to accept, please?
So moved.
Chris, seconded by Kelly. Scott, what do we got in the consent agenda?
Yeah, as we look for enrollments next year, we're 24 students behind where we were last year at this time. Again, as I talked about last month, it's mostly due to lower enrollments in the pre-tech program, and we found out that Bells Falls has fewer freshmen coming in this year. Derek, check that out. And then also we have experienced some loss in digital media online program as people go through schedules at the schools where the kids signed up, and we lost 4, I think of the 8 that we had signed up. And funding for that position is funded under a grant that we'll talk about a little bit later. All the other programs are about the same as where they were last year or improved. And as far as, and as far as financials, we're gonna end up with a surplus of $968 in the local budget. Again, that's impacted by our use of reserve funds, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. We believe our budgeting has improved there too.
Okay. Any questions on any of that or anything in the consent agenda? Okay, those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. All right, old business, VTVLC, Ashley.
Sure, thank you. So the first thing that I have is our sort of May financial report. So we are right where we need to be. So that's a great thanks to Christine and Nancy for ensuring that we are on track. Actually, Christine had adjusted our anticipated deficit to 297,329, which is an improvement from our last month of 63,857. So we went from 361 to 297. And that really sort of went because we saw some improvements in revenue during that time frame. So that was a good feeling. Any questions about that? Okay, hearing none. The other item in your board packet is our FY26 proposed budget. And again, thank you to Christine and Nancy for the work that they do to ensure that this happens. We are very excited because in the governor's budget, our grant of the flexible pathways went from 2 million to 2.4, so that you can see here where those funds are going. There is some adjustments in it because of the K-8 program that we have.
I'll compliment, actually, we met with the secretary when they were doing, what was that called? In the fall, they came and talked to everybody. But we had a meeting with the secretary. Ashley pitched what the budget was gonna be, and it ended up that way, so it worked out well. And some advocacy in between.
Yeah.
Kate?
Has the governor's budget been signed yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I was like, yes, it has.
Yeah.
Hey, that's not funny, all right?
It usually, it's not signed till the legislature adjourns, but it was signed last week.
Yep.
Okay,
And
that's
there are,
first I've heard of that. That's great.
there are still 2 bills lingering as they.
Yeah.
we
And I'll
have.
talk a little
Yeah.
bit about that.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, 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 okay, that's not funny. Yeah.
Procedurally on that, just for the board to know, that's coming to us as information. And then we will take action at it at our next meeting, which I expect will be August.
Yep.
We get to that later.
Which is generally our pattern. So because we have to wait for funding to come in through the state, so we don't propose a budget until this time so that we know the governor's budget has been passed and signed.
That's challenging.
It is a little bit. But we are really good at doing it. The next thing I do have in there is our current enrollment numbers. So as anticipated, our traditional enrollments are going down, which we would hope because today was the last day of the semester. So if you were to look at data next month, you would say you don't have any students, and that is true in our traditional program because today is the last day. And then our on-demand enrollments are in sort of a flex period right now because we are closing out FY25, we're gathering enrollments for FY26. Some don't start until September, and then some will start now. So you'll see some fluctuation in those. And the next time I meet with you in August, there'll be very few custom project enrollments, so those will also be wrapping up per school that we do those with. We have already had 4 schools reach out to us to do custom projects for them in the fall. And so those will all be shifts that you'll see. And then for the interim director's report, we do have a healthy and robust agenda today, so I won't read through everything in this report. Thanks, Bob. Thank you.
No.
He does the same thing to me.
I know. I'm like, it's also all public knowledge and you all can read. So I will just highlight, it has been a very busy month for us. We've had wonderful outings and field trips and learning experiences. We have been to some conferences and done some presentations. So we've been really fortunate to have a beautiful month. And you can look through and you can see the highlights that we've done and the experiences of our students. And then the only other thing I would highlight is that in the agenda, I did say some upcoming events. So today is the last day of our spring semester. We are very excited that for our students. June 11th, we have our Lake Elmore end of year celebration. And this is a really cool opportunity for students to see each other in person. It's always a beautiful time. And then at the other end of the year,
In New Hampshire,
we will celebrate the work anniversaries of myself and Lucy Gagnon. That's what I have. Any questions?
Questions for Ashley? So good job on getting through an interesting year, and I think it'll be curious as I was looking at the budget. I think when we were doing this a year ago, I don't think we anticipated the way the year would go, particularly with the customs, and you
Yeah.
rolled with it. So it'll be interesting to see whether it's that or something else during the next year. So
Yeah.
Anyways, go forth and do good.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ashley. All right, statewide CTE update.
Governor Scott signed the FY26 budget in late May. A late request from Baghdad, letter writing and support campaign, working through some committee chairs. Language was included, which includes an extra $500,000 for career and technical education in the budget. That means different things to different centers. For us, that's going to mean about $66,000 and additional revenue above and beyond what we budgeted for. My recommendation, and along with Derek, is we had talked about, and we don't have to take any action because we didn't riff this position. We had talked about a reduction in force for the building secretary position. The timeline for that would be up to 5 days before the end of the year. So we didn't need to take any action. We found out that we're going to have the funds. So our recommendation is to keep that position whole, and the assistant director position, what we'll talk about later. And we have been honest with all the people who applied that this could be a school year position, or it could be a calendar year position. And those two positions can be kept whole with this additional $66,000. Plus the surprise that we got with the funding of the dual enrollment classes, which was $16,000 or so, not paid for by the agency. All of that fits nicely within $66,000. It's not a Swiss watch. It was just luck. But that's very good. I know that a lot of people in this region in particular industry people that Chris Gray talked about reached out to local legislators to make that push. The letter basically said, said you wanted to support CTE all year long in every committee meeting, and you haven't really done much. Here's something you can do right now. And I will say I put that together, but my board chair kicked me a little bit on that one. What have you done about that? And it worked out this year.
Well, and we should thank Senator Allison Clarkson and certainly our area legislators as well, but particularly not from our region, but Representative Mike Marcotte, who's the chair of the House Commerce Committee,
Right.
was very, very instrumental in kind of getting this slid in.
Yeah. He did say he called the governor's office and they didn't know anything about it. Okay. The -3%. Anyways, the other significant piece is there was a late bill that had to do with the sharing of information of students who didn't get into tech centers across regional lines. And there was some late flurry on this. The bill is called.
Sharing between career centers?
So if I had a big, long waiting list in advanced manufacturing engineering and Wyndham didn't have, had room, then we would share those lists so that kids can make a decision. This is probably the most likely scenario where it would work really well because Bellows Falls students can go to, and there's a bus running every day. It gets a little iffier if it's Windsor in the other direction. So the bill would require the sharing of directory information, which tiptoes on the line with FERPA. I haven't looked into it that closely, but it would maybe get kids access to a center that's right next door. There was a bit of an issue in the Benning, the Rutland Middlebury area. So that passed out of committee. Along with that would be reimbursement for the transportation. If RVTC wanted to run a bus to Rutland because there was a bunch of staff or area kids that didn't get in there, we would get reimbursed for that transportation. But then how much sense does that make in a 2-hour program? But it does provide reimbursement. In my reading of previous statute, that has always been there. You can get reimbursement if you run your bus to help kids out. I looked it up, and that bill is currently listed as unfinished business. So unfinished business means, does it get molded into H454, where there's language that would be really beneficial that Ashley has also worked on as far as us not having to wait every year to be approved, that they could say, hey, we're going to have a program and we're going to pay for it, and we don't have to wait for the money tree to come every year. So there's bigger fish to fry, but those are some of the smaller pieces that may have impact on us. The tech directors came out with a late letter and said, we don't necessarily think the language in H480, there's a director or two that may think this is a good idea. But we work across regional lines anyways, but it may formalize a process where we could indeed serve more kids. I know we work very well with Hartford, particularly as far as pre-tech, because Hartford, I think, has a long waiting list of many programs, but is it practical for a Thetford Center kid to come down here for instance? So we have been referred to several Windsor kids over the years. That's the statewide update.
Great. Any questions for Scott? Thank you. All right, equipment spend down update on the reserves.
Yeah, this is actually good news. You know, we froze the budget in April to see how it all sugars off. Last month, I think I reported that we would only use 40,000 of what we thought we were going to use. Well, I'm here to report that we're only use about 29,500 of the reserves. We anticipated using much more than that. A lot of that has to do with the teachers really buying what they needed to buy. Christine being awesome. Tina getting a couple grants from a lot of different people chipped in to chip away at that number. So in reserves now we're at 68,500 still sitting there. There'll be some actions later that may chip away at the reserves where there's vacation day payouts for RVTC administrators and a tuition reimbursement request. Although that 29,000 is inclusive of those being approved.
Any questions on that? And again, the projections is we're $900 and change to the good at the end of the fiscal year, so. That's good. All right. Teachers union agreement, we'll talk about an executive session. And Scott and Fred, there's a lot of things that we'll be doing today that are sort of the traditional June meeting, end of the fiscal year, end of the school year stuff. So one of them.
This one, start that one.
Exactly. So payment of up to 5 unused vacation days. This is a normal thing, but
This is a normal thing. Last month, we missed Melissa Sargent Minor. Derek and I wanted to see how things sugared off. In our contracts, we can get paid out for up to 5 days of unused vacation days. So we would ask for a motion to do up to 5 days for Melissa Sargent Minor, myself, and I think Derek. The motion is going to say less than 5 days, but Derek was looking for 3.
it says motion will say up to 5.
Up to 5 days,
vacation
so.
days.
So moved.
Thank you. Second to that?
Second.
Second that by Desiree. Discussion on the motion? Again, this is normal business. Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Okay, on to new business. Authorization for a retirement stipend for our friend John Harbour.
Yeah, this is a language in the agreement with the support staff union.
That's.
Excuse me, teachers union. Everybody's quick. Everybody's quick to help.
Listening, paying attention.
Tina was first to jump on me, I noticed that. Anyways, for the teachers union contract, retiring teachers with 15 more years of service are eligible for a $14,000 500 stipend paid over 3 years. We had budgeted for this. John Harmer is retiring this year, and the payments will over the next 3 years, the first payment part of the FY26 budget.
So therefore, I would ask for a motion pursuant to Article 19, Section 19.1 of the agreement between the RVTC Board of Directors and Springfield Teachers Association to authorize payment of a $14,500 retirement stipend for John Harmer, horticulture and natural resources instructor as described in the agreement.
So moved.
Chris and Kelly seconds. Any discussion on that? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
And anybody opposed? As I said, when we, I think, accepted his retirement, a job well done, and we're going to miss John a lot here. So thank you, John. All right, Perkins Grant. I assume that's Derek.
I'll start.
Okay.
There's a summary of how we want to spend the Perkins funds, which is very close to how we want to spend it this year. How we spend it this year, we want to spend it next year. With all the federal action that's happened, we don't have our Perkins grant completed. It's not even available to us and hasn't populated the database. We're working through that now, but we do know how we're going to spend it. And the summary, Derek, going to.
I was gonna say, I gave it to you, I was not.
I got it here. I can
All
go.
right. I'm happy to talk about it, but I just gotta see it. So this is, for those of you who've been here before, very similar to how we've done it in the past. Most of the money goes to our 0.8 CTE coordinator, including all of our middle school career exploration. We've got money in there for work keys testing, which is a requirement for the state. CTSO support, all the different tech centers come together to make sure that we have the staffing statewide necessary to support our students. And then we were lucky enough to have $6,300 this year to put towards professional development. So this is a continuation of our multi-year Perkins plan. And we get to start with our comprehensive local needs assessment in the fall to make a new plan to figure out how we're going to move forward after next year.
And as Mr. Gray said, this is all this is goes towards middle school stuff. So it's what he's doing. It's the after school programming. It's the summer tech camp. It's all the different visitations. So like, is it tomorrow we're having 7th graders from Fall Mountain here doing a scavenger hunt for their career paths.
And Friday,
I think I want to take
We have
tomorrow
another
afternoon off because it's scary when they're running around kind of, yeah. So go
Yeah.
ahead there.
So yeah, this is a very similar plan to, I think, what we've run for a lot of years. Looking forward, just so it's on people's radar, I think we're gonna have to start to shift percentages of this to the local budget because we're way past the timeline that they've told us a few times, but they keep giving us an extension. So just something for us to keep in the back of our brains for January when we're looking at budgets.
Yeah, and I will add that when I was looking through some of the legislation, they are extending some language in career technical education to 7th grade. So I don't know if that lines up with maybe more money coming for these kind of activities. The reason they've allowed us to do this because there's not a standard funding source for this kind of activity in our funding stream. So they've allowed it because we're doing stuff that we can't find the funds anywhere else to do.
Any questions?
So if not, I'd ask for a motion to approve the submission of the Perkins grant proposal for FY26 as presented.
So moved.
Chris, seconded by Liza. You were quick that time. Any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Time grant.
So this will be the first year that the time grant will be populated in the state of Vermont data management system, so it's not there yet. But we will be in the 2nd year of the grant that is trying to bring back the online career CTE programming with the digital media stuff we're doing. So the time grant, it'll be approximately $80,000 next year. We put together, they're gonna allow us a few more funds for the position. Christine, if I said $80,000, I was pretty close, correct?
For what you mean for salary benefits?
Salary benefits and stuff next year.
Yeah. That's about close. That's close.
Yeah, and so we will tell them what they want. They will give it to us. We've had verbal conversation with them. Yeah. But it will pay the salary and benefits for the halftime position that we have. Most of the things that we need were paid for in the first year of the grant, which was much larger, about $150,000. So they cut it in half. So this will just pay for the position. And again, it's a pilot to see if we can reinvigorate online CTE.
Any questions on that? Yeah, Kate.
What is the time grant? Like, is it a federal grant?
It's a state grant.
grant?
So what happens is the legislature allocates, usually it's about $375,000 total to do new and innovative programming because, hey, if I want to start a brand new diesel program, the FTEs to support that haven't arrived because it's over a 6-semester average. So usually you get $150,000 in the first year, which pays for your salary and benefits and some of the things.
Yeah.
That wouldn't come close probably on diesel, so it's a poor example. But the idea is the grant pays for while the FTEs filtered in.
Great, thank you.
And they try to move it around a little bit around the state.
There is a federal program also called Time.
Okay,
So
got it.
this is not that.
This is not that.
Right. Any other questions? All right, can I get a motion to approve the submission of the time grant proposal for FY26 as presented? Kelly? And seconded by Liza. Discussion on the motion? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. All right, we're combining the next two, non-union support staff FY26 rate increase handbook and administrative assistant HR coordinator position change.
So we capture how we do things with our non-union support staff in what we call the non-union support staff handbook. There's a salary chart in there. If you remember back to, we were talking about a position with BTBLC and where I was going to place it, the action I asked for is after we did a salary survey and time study and all that, we determined that the position goes into X column for a salary that would be competitive in the marketplace. So this is a similar action. One action will be to approve what we apply to the salary charts. And that's the same as would be in what we have in our union support staff agreement, which is a 5.1% increase plus 10 cents an hour, which is really a squirrely thing, but that's what was agreed to. So that would be applied in the salary chart. The other piece that we're asking for, and this is very historical, and that back when we became our own technical center school district, a decision was made that the administrative assistant would assume our HR coordinator role, because we're not big enough to need a full HR person, but we do need somebody with knowledge that does that. So at that time, they did a time study and the position was determined to be 2/3 administrative assistant, 1/3 HR. That was 15 years ago. In those 15 years, we've more than doubled the number of personnel we have with VTBLC, and also how all those adjuncts need a certain level of support. There are personnel with VTBLC that helps us with some of that, but we decided that we would launch a time study to see how much time Tina spends on the HR function. And we did it at a time when it was really hot and heavy with insurance, but then it bled into a time where it may not be a time when HR would be so heavy. And we came up with a 50-50 split. So we did a 50-50 split of those HR duties with the administrative assistant duties. We determined the salary because in our chart is a chart that started as what the Springfield HR manager would get. So we proportioned those out, and the salary that we came up with that would make the most sense would involve us moving that position from column 4 to column 5 in that handbook. So when you approve the handbook, that'll be inclusive of this salary, Tina's move, but then also the percentage for all the employees that are guided by that handbook.
That makes sense to folks. All right. Kelly?
I just have a question, and maybe I'm missing something, but so Tina's job is twofold. And it used to be 2/3, 1/3, and now it's 50-50.
Yep.
Does that really mean that I'm not a math teacher, but did one part of her job really lose a lot of time? I mean, it doesn't seem likely. And so I just want to make sure that everything is being covered appropriately, even though we still have one person, like splitting her time, whichever way doesn't matter. But are all of the things being taken care of and compensated appropriately, or are we really asking her to do 1.25 of a job? Do you see what I'm saying?
I think there's been some advances in technology that help with that. So proofreading letters and proofreading things, there are some technologies that help with some of that. But yeah, the position is a heavy lift. I will say that.
Tina does more than 1.25, right?
I was just trying to math it out without being the math teacher.
No, and it's a good point, Kelly. I know, remember with Tina's predecessor, we did a similar time study and an adjustment. Same conversation we're having now.
Yeah, we haven't looked at this 14, 15 years. We have talked about doing it, but we said we're going to do it in this window and did it.
All right. Any other questions before I ask for a motion? Chris?
Yeah. All that we're talking about here involving finances, was that budgeted for next year's budget?
The projection of the 5.1 and 10 cents would have been projected. The increase for Tina wasn't projected, but we do have some savings in other parts that'll cover it.
Okay.
Other questions? Therefore, I'd ask for a motion to authorize a pay rate increase of 5.1% and 10 cents per hour to non-union support staff for FY 26, and to approve the non-union support staff handbook, including the movement of the administrative assistant HR coordinator position from column 4 to column 5 of the hourly wage schedule. Would someone make that motion, please?
So
Chris and Kate. So that covered all the things Scott talked about. Just make sure we all are good with that. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Okay, the VTVLC contracts and teaching positions, we'll talk about in executive session. Same thing with the infotech instructor. So we're down to item H, tuition reimbursement.
Yeah, this is something that is allowed in our agreement with the teachers' contract. We are seeking tuition reimbursement for Courtney Lehatch, who completed an accelerated master's degree program. She went beyond what is allotted in the contract. The contract allows for 2 classes in the program, but she took an accelerated program because of one of the reasons that she did it is in order to offer dual enrollment credit in her class with where most people in the state offer it with CCV and Vermont State University, you need a master's degree. So she took an accelerated program to offer the dual enrollment. She took a program that was pretty economical, so the request would be that we reimburse her $1,984. And again, that's inclusive of that projection we did at that. Oh, $82. $82. Thank you. It is 82.
Okay. That makes sense to folks? All right, but ask for a motion to reimburse Courtney Lehatch $1,982 for additional professional development expenses incurred in fiscal year 25 per section 18.3 of the Springfield Teachers Association agreement. Someone make that motion, please. Kelly, seconded by Liza. Discussion on the motion? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Next 2 items, assistant director position and mentor contract we'll deal with after executive session. Summer meeting schedule, just typically, unless there's pressing business, we skip July and pick back up in August. I assume there's no objection to that. Hopefully we won't have to do anything beforehand, but we'll plan on being together on August 6th. All right, superintendent's report. Take all the time you want.
Come, Flynn, that's not fair.
11 years and you finally get the green light.
See how it is.
If he said something different, would that have mattered? Short timer.
Yeah. It's an all year. Kelly's been Kelly Broker Campbell, outreach coordinator's been pretty involved. Weathersfield doing the Lego League up there. She was there at their STEAM night. Again, that's part of the outreach we do. May 2nd, we had Pam McKenzie here from the Vermont Business Roundtable who toured RVTC as part of their initiative to better support all the tech centers in the state. And just how they can support CTE in upcoming legislative sessions and with the businesses there. Farmers' kids from Horticulture and Natural Resources participated in the game of logging at the Hannaford Career Center in Wright Park in Middlebury. We had a great breakfast and lunch for our students of the quarter. All this information was shared with your principals so they can go around and say, hey, I know what you did at Tech Center. A lot of field trips going on this time of year. Again, we wouldn't be able to do it without Bellows Falls helping us out with their bus. Criminal Justice went to Wayland to see how they manufacture the lights and the light bars for police cars and all of that. The Health Sciences kid went to Dartmouth for their career expo and some real world learning. They actually ran into Mr. Chase, who was our former criminal justice instructor, who's a security supervisor up there. And then they ran into a former student who graduated from Bellows Falls in 23, who was wrapping up his internship at Hitchcock through the River Valley Community College and the Radiological Technology program. It's a small world after all. The RADs, as you heard, this is a different one, that they participated in the aerospace robotics competition at St. Anselm's College. This is a different, larger kind of drone. Chris forgot all about this, that was gifted to us and supported by Beta Technologies to participate in this particular competition, construct this large drone. And as a sidelight, they met the guy that invented the Segway.
That's really cool.
Pretty cool. Carpentry program students level 1 and 2 went to the Green Source project site in Charlestown, a field trip, and the person who was running the site, Gabe St. Pierre, of the formerly the Fall Mountain rep to this board, gave the presentation. I'm sure he loved it. Criminal, okay, next. Derek and I gave Peter Burrows a tour of the tech center here. He's the new and incoming superintendent for the Springfield School District. Saw all the programs, met all the staff. He was next door to another independent tech center in Hannaford. He goes, the vibe here is totally different in a good way. The executive director of Windham County Safe Place came and presented to the criminal justice students about vital services from the child advocacy centers and victim services and how they support investigators. The tech advanced manufacturing students went to the Big E for the Bright Minds Student Summit. They do that every year. It's been called different things, but this is, they get to interact with leaders in advanced manufacturing about emerging technologies. A student bought me back some plastic golf tees and a ball marker. Thanks for thinking of me. We had an outstanding night with NTHS, our largest class ever. Really touching night. Tina, did you want to say anything?
You got it.
I gave you the chance. It was wonderful. And then it was awards night after that. We were about an hour and a half. We gave away close to $30,000 in scholarships. It was wonderful. People cried. It was good.
Weather was beautiful again.
Weather was beautiful again. All this again was shared with descending schools. We'll be doing a Facebook post soon. Maybe you've heard the drones went to the national drone competition. They returned, and at the typing of this, we didn't know that they took first place. It was awesome. People who were chaperoning this said there was no trouble. They were great teammates. There was no issues in the hotel. Think about 8th graders, middle schoolers in a hotel, maybe not the most direct supervision. And it's been about a week, so nobody's called and said, while you were here. So, we recognize at our last Atrium gathering, the Aaron Douglas Outstanding Dependability Award. We honor a former Green Mountain student who passed away from cancer. He exemplified exceptional dependability in the faces of challenges. I tell the students, if you got this one, you've earned it. Job well done. And then our students from the business program did a fundraiser at the Welcome Center in Guilford, Vermont, made over $1,000. And yeah, that's it.
So I just want to make it about Tina and Terry Herzog's work on the National Technical Honor Society. If you haven't been to it, they introduce the students and then the students announce who influenced them. And it's a surprise to the person. So some were instructors here, some were parents or grandparents, and just it was really sweet watching that and seeing the reactions and the emotion and just I say this every year, but just the awards night to me is sort of the epitome of what goes on in this building and the feeling that people have about being associated with it. The kids clearly care. The instructors clearly like their kids. It's so wonderful. And I know Jess was there. I was there. I'm not sure anybody else was there, but it's online. You can find the video of it.
I'll be posting on our Facebook page probably tomorrow. We've had plenty of contact. And I will say, there was a few kids that weren't there because there was the Southern Track Championship and games and all that. And they're chasing every kid down to swear them in here to make sure they get the full dose of what it means. So.
No, wonderful evening. And it's like that came after like 4 days of the rain, right? So serendipity. And I know you don't want a big thing, but I just want to acknowledge Scott's work here at RVTC. I remember when he was hired as director, geez, Allison Delorier, who was on the board, Dave Clark from Dulles Falls, Andrew, I think, was on at that time. And just the challenge we gave to Scott was to be an evangelist for tech ed. And everything you've heard tonight, reason we got that money in the budget, the reason that, when there's a go-to from the governor or somebody to talk about tech ed in the state, he gets the call. The reason that we have such an amazing staff and such amazing kids and atmosphere is the leadership our superintendent director has shown. So we have great faith in Derek, but we are thankful to you for all you've done for us.
Well, thanks, Bob. We have a great staff here. I'm lucky to have been here with them, and Derek and I frequently talk that we're fortunate that this is our gig in education. We're also fortunate that the longevity and support of this board, we don't have turnover. We have consistent support of the leadership here, and that matters. And if you know anything about education and growth, when there's a firm foundation, things grow. And we've had that from this board through. We've had 3 directors in 20 years. That matters too. And our staff come and stay. And I believe this is a little bit of a destination for people who are looking to get into education. And it's been an honor. And I've been fortunate. I've been very fortunate to call this a home for 21 years. Thank you.
To offend you. No pressure here.
Yeah.
All right, we do have quite a few things to deal with in executive session, so I would ask for a motion pursuant to Title I VSA Section 313 to enter executive session to discuss the teacher agreement negotiations, our VTVLC administrator contracts, RVTC, VTVLC teacher positions, the assistant director position, and a mentor contract, because premature general public knowledge would place people at a substantial disadvantage, inviting Scott, Derek, and Ashley.
So
Someone second that? Kate will second that. Sorry, Kelly, I didn't see you. Any discussion on the motion? Go, those in favor, please raise hands or say aye. Anybody opposed? Saw that, Liza. All right, we'll go into executive session. All right, it's 6:06. We're back in open session. We have several motions to cover. First would be the teachers' union agreement. There'll be 2 motions on this. First one is going to ask for a motion to ratify the agreement between the River Valley Technical Center School Board of Directors and the Springfield Teachers Association for September 1st, 2025 to August 31st, 2028. Desiree and Chris. Discussion on the motion? Those in favor, raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, thank you. Okay, along with that, to authorize myself as board chair to sign the agreement between the River Valley Technical Center School Board of Directors and the Springfield Teachers Association for the period of September 1st, 2025 to August 31st, 2028, upon completion and review of the ratified agreement. So Chris and Kelly, discussion on the motion? In favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next, on to the new business items we didn't cover. VTVLC administrator contracts. I would ask for a motion to authorize the superintendent in consultation with myself as board chair to negotiate VTVLC administrators contracts for fiscal year 26.
So moved.
Chris, and seconded by Kate. Discussion on the motion? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Next, for VTVLC teaching positions, I would ask for a motion to authorize the recall of Jennifer Hardy to 1.0 FTE as the 5-6 grade VTVLC teacher. Motion by Desiree, seconded by Kelly. Discussion on the motion? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Continuing with VTVLC teaching positions, to authorize the hiring of a 1.0 FTE math science teacher and a 1.0 FTE English Social Studies teacher for VTVLC. Would someone make that motion, please?
So moved.
Chris and Kelly.
Just a question. Does a grade level need to be associated with that, or is that motion stand as is?
Needs to be associated with it, 7 through 12.
So is that for both positions?
7 through 12.
Math, science, and 7 through 12 English Social Studies.
Yes, please.
So, does the amendment, does the
So-
motion so reflect that?
Yes.
And does the second so reflect that? Yep, good. Any discussion on the motion? Good catch. Any other discussion? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Okay, motion on the info tech instructor to authorize the adjustment of the information technology teacher contract from 0.5 FTE to 0.55 FTE. Someone make that motion, Liza, and second by Kelly. Any discussion on that one? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. 2 more. Assistant Director position would ask for a motion to authorize the Superintendent Director to negotiate a contract for the RVTC Assistant Director of Adult and Technical Education position for fiscal year 26. Someone make that motion, please. Kelly, and seconded by Kate. Any discussion? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Last one, mentor contract. To approve the mentoring contract between RVTC, VTVLC, and Scott Farr. Would someone make that motion, please?
Motion.
Motion by Desiree, seconded by Kelly. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Do we have any other business to come before the board?
We do not.
Our next regular meeting is August 6th. Enjoy the summer, folks. We're adjourning at 6:10. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.